up, everybody? It's me, Stephen Billings. Welcome to Chasing Labels. I'm your host, Stephen Billings. I'm going to say my name twice because, I don't know, just felt like it. Of course, with me as always is Andrew Cabral, man. What's up?
What's up? I thought I had everything set up, ready to roll, and then I realized I forgot to do a few things, so
Oh, shit.
I'm gonna be blindly distracted for a few seconds.
Oh, damn.
Now I'm just looking at. God, I forgot. I usually like to share the links around, and I
Yeah.
completely forgot to do that this time, even though we're
Well,
already on. So it's like,
yeah, it's okay.
like whatever.
Well, everybody's
At this
saying
point.
hi already. Hi, guys. Hi, Har Honey. Hi, Wookie's Movie and Music. Thanks for joining us tonight. And yeah, here we are for spine number, what is it, 138?
I believe it is. Yes,
138
138.
of Chasing Labels.
Yeah, it's been a busy 2 weeks
Yeah.
when it comes to announcements that have dropped and plus a bunch of other things.
Yeah. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about tonight. We got a couple big announcements about Chasing Labels and some other stuff to go along with it. So we'll of course start there. And so to start the show, we do have news about the future of Chasing Labels, and it's not going anywhere. It is still going to be a show, but it will be down one host, and that will be me. I am stepping away from being a co-host on Chasing Labels. I am not going anywhere. I'm still going to be around. I am still going to do reviews on the channel and, here and there do some other things. One of the other things is going to be something we're going to announce here soon. Andrew, I know you're crying over this.
Indeed. Oh, I was distraught. Indeed distraught.
Well, it's a personal thing, but go ahead. You're fine.
Right, of course. Yeah, it's a sudden change. I know a lot of people don't like change, myself
No.
included. Especially sudden change always rattles you.
It was a right on the spot, like kind of something that was for Andrew very sudden. Yes.
Yes, it was. So it's going to be a bit of a learning curve going forward, going solo, which is something I've done before on YouTube and such, but not in years, not in at least 5 years. I think since we started doing Cinema Discovery Project in 2018, so I haven't really done anything solo since then. Really, well, I was doing the movie reviews here on
here and there.
YouTube as well.
I
did do to 2020, so technically 4 years, which is still a long time if you think about it. But yes, going forward, we'll still continue probably at the every 2-week cycle, which just make it easier on me. Still continuing with choosing specific films that I would like to add to my collection, perhaps movies the audience would be interested in hearing about as well, and perhaps wanting to get basically the same thing, except Steven won't be here to counterbalance me. So it'll just be full throttle.
You're gonna get a more like stronger, like not watered down version of Andrew. Andrew's gonna be going hard. The shows could be longer.
I don't want to make it longer because we've done long shows in the past, but it's easier to do with two people. Just me sitting here talking for 3 hours would be the most talking I could do in a day.
and this can bring me to I'm sure what some of you are thinking like is really why. I mean, thanks for everybody saying that I'll be missed. I appreciate that. I know. I'm sorry. I know. But so I mean, it's something that's kind of been, for me on my side, not for Andrew wasn't really aware of it, but it's just something that's been on my mind for a little while now. Not that of course, this was a baby I started with Andrew a little over 3 years ago. We both, we've been podcasting for a couple years before that too, with Cinema Discovery Project. And it's not really anything to do with the show itself. Like, part of it is, I mean, like for me as somebody that's a creative, I sometimes feel the need to move on from something. And that's probably part of it. But really a lot of it is, I have a family now. When I started this podcast, it was very in the infancy of my relationship with my wife. and I was in a different place. And this show has just grown and grown, and it's taken more of my time, and it's taken more of my focus. And I'm at a point right now. Now I have a child. I have almost a 2-year-old now, and my responsibilities need to be more on them. I need to, having this recurring thing every other week. It's on our calendar. It takes up time. It's something that's it needs to. I need to move on from it. And not that I could never maybe pop in every once in a while and do an episode. Maybe that'll happen if I'm in the mood or have the ability to do it. Maybe I will. But for the most part, I think that moving forward, we got Andrew here, and I think Andrew really loves the grind of this. We're both, of course, I'm still a big physical media guy. That's not going to change, but it's, Andrew likes the grind. He likes the routine of doing the show. I think he likes doing getting ready for it.
Yeah, it's kind of become a natural part of my life. So if anything, it fits within my schedule because it is my schedule. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As opposed to being an addition to other life things going on, I'm fortunate enough to where this is my life, in a way,
Sure.
as opposed to Steven, who of course has an entire life and then has this on top of it, which can, they can conflict with one another or they bounce up against one another, all those things. And like Steven said, I think everybody is in a much different situation in their life than they were 3 years ago, which I think is
just in general, sure,
yeah. When did we start? 2022, I believe.
2021. 2021. Yeah.
Yeah, around. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so we're all in a bunch of different places than we were 3 years ago, let alone however long ago we've been doing it. But yeah, we have been podcasting since like 2018, which is 6 years or so. So it's been a while. I mean, I've been doing the YouTube thing since like 2016. So it's even longer than that for me.
Yeah.
But I do want to continue, obviously, keep talking about the movie announcements and keep talking about the releases. I obviously, Steven, you still said you want to do the Unwatched pile.
We're going to do stuff. We're going to do stuff together. Yeah. We're going to continue to do stuff where you see us together. It's not, Horror Honey, don't be upset. It's okay. It's all right. We'll still do stuff together, and one of these other announcements is another thing that coming here in a minute.
If you want to just announce it now,
we're going to announce it. Yeah,
you're teasing everybody.
Yeah, I know. So we have another. Yeah, to move past that, I appreciate everybody that's been watching us and been staying along with us, and show their appreciation for what we do, and we just want to thank you guys. I want to thank you guys for letting me ramble on about stuff with Andrew. Andrew gets to do a lot of the talking, and that's and part of it is for me. Like, I've gotten to a point where my life takes away from me even being able to prepare for this show to really bring you guys something. And Andrew does such a good job at preparing for this show that you don't need me here now. Sure, we have a good back and forth and everything, and I know that's part of the show. But he brings you so much more than I can at this point. I think that Andrew by himself is going to make Chasing Labels still really strong show. And, maybe every once in a while he's going to bring on a guest. Maybe we can set
I
that
do got to
up.
figure out that whole aspect of it. Steven did a lot of the heavy lifting when it came to booking all the guests that we've had on, communicating with you, the fans, all that kind of stuff. All the interviews we've done, that was all Steven's doing pretty much. The scheduling and stuff like that is always a pain in life in general. So I want to try to work my way into doing that. First things first, though, I got to figure out all the technical stuff, all the stuff here.
He's got to get used to using our StreamYard. He's never done. I'm the one that always runs the streams.
Yeah, running all this stuff. Getting your comments here on the screen is something I got to figure out as well.
Yeah.
But once I get it down, things will run obviously more smoothly. So we'll see in probably about 2 weeks from now when I do my first solo show. We'll see how that rolls.
We'll get some practicing in. We'll get you right. But yeah, guys, I appreciate everybody that has followed along with me on this show, and like I said, not going completely away. I'll still be around. You'll still hear from me, and like I said, leads us to our other thing to talk about tonight. And this is something I'm really excited. And this is part of what I'm saying. Like, I'm a creative. I would consider myself a creative. I'm somebody that's always trying to come up with a new thing. I sing, I play, like there's a lot of things in my life that's about creating. So when I'm getting to a point where I feel like it's time to start something new, sometimes I have to let something go. And that's what I'm kind of doing here. But I got a new thing that I think is going to be really exciting that I think is kind of something that's not got a place in YouTube right now. And I think it's about time for somebody to kind of bring something fun. So we are going to be introducing tonight a new show that is I guess you would call it a game show. I guess it's a game show. It's got a little bit of everything. It's got some trivia in it. It's also really, I would say, more of a free form creative endeavor. Like it's
a creative based game show.
Yeah,
with a lot of participation from the contestants who will be in it.
And also you, the audience, will be involved in.
Very true. There is an audience aspect to it.
Yeah. So, but the show hosted by me as not me, but as a man we call Professor Perkins. This is the first time. Now, this isn't a final get up of what I'll look like, but because I'm still messing with the costume. But this is the name of the show: Movie Mutations, movies reimagined by you. And so, yeah, I mean, this is something we've kind of been working on behind the scenes for a little while now. It's something that I'm really passionate about. I've seen other people doing games online, and I've never really been a trivia person. I've never really been good. I think me and you are same that way.
I do watch Jeopardy every night, as you know, Steven.
Well, you are, but I think when you're watching movies, you don't do it the same way as.
Oh, true. I do get the movie categories though on Jeopardy pretty definitively though. I also did nail Final Jeopardy tonight, so I was quite happy.
That's good.
It was a complete guess. The answer was Big Kahuna, if anyone was interested.
Okay. Well, is it a Pulp Fiction?
No, it was a reference to a surfer. Okay. A surfer from Hawaii, and they said, and it was like, he was referred to as this two-name phrase that means someone who's like great in their craft or something like that. Yeah. And I was like, Big Kahuna? Because I was thinking of something Hawaiian, and I just thought Big Kahuna. But I did, of course, think of Pulp Fiction.
So it was a slang term. It was a
kind of like head honcho, macho man, something like that. So I was like, Big Kahuna. What a guess. Sometimes you get it. Sometimes you get it. But this won't be like that. This will be more creative based. This will be well, as you saw with the graphic, it's called Movie Mutations. And what it will be is this Professor Perkins character that Steven has concocted will be having two contestants.
Here, let me
square off against one another. Just like that. And they will be mutating a movie into a different form. They will be taking a movie that we pretty much all know very, very well, and they will be changing the genre. They'll be changing directors. They'll be changing the casting, and they will have to convince Professor Perkins that their version of this movie is a good version that he would want to see.
Yes, it's very much, I've always loved. See, I like trivia, but I'm not great at it, but I like it. And I've always been somebody that likes debate. I like debates, but I also I didn't want to create something that was just a show where people hated on things just to hate on things. There's a little bit of that like back and forth in this, but it's a very small part of it. To me, this show is about who can be the most creative, who knows movies well enough that they can kind of almost on the fly take a movie and make a new spin on it. It's going to take some homework by participants, and they'll get that opportunity, but it's going to be something that, I think is going to be really fun. I think it's going to cause for, some really fun ideas, some really funny ideas. I think there's going to be some situations. We've already been doing some tests on this behind the scenes, and we had some hilarious ideas for different versions. But there'll be more details on the breakdown of how the game will be.
Yeah, we're still working out the kinks.
Yeah.
We're working out the ironing out all the details in terms of structure and pacing and things like that. But the overall structure is pretty much what we just told you.
Yeah, overall structure is basically, round one is about, you have a movie at the center of the game. Round one is about selecting the new genre of that movie. Round two is about selecting the new director, and round three is about changing 4 cast members in the movie. So the way it's structured, I don't want to get into the minutia yet, but eventually it'll be all revealed. And but I think our first test we did last night was pretty fun.
Yes.
So
those of you interested, we took Star Wars and turned it into a film noir. Yeah. So it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Where you're taking something that we all know and then changing it up to to a different place that you want it to be.
Yeah.
But you have to
work to get there.
You have to work with it, and you have to also work with your opponent, kind of, because your opponent can change things up that you weren't expecting. They could throw in a cast member that you weren't expecting.
Yeah, advantages,
or they could be their genre that they want.
Yeah, yeah. You know? I mean, like the game is structured around you get advantages if you answer questions right. If you, and then you have to just have better ideas than your opponent. If you can convince the audience that your idea is better, then you'll move further in the game, and
that's where the audience participation will come in. They'll be able to say if they like one person's version of the movie or the other person's version of the movie, and that's kind of like how we will advance the game along.
Yeah. It's like I said, I don't want to get too detail oriented.
Yeah, that's not got too detailed. That's not why we're here, really. But it's in the works. It's in the works.
My goal is that by October this will be ready to go, fully ready to go. And the Professor Perkins character, why we're emphasizing having him as a character on here, is that the beginning of every episode of this will be very much like a creep show, or like a Mystery Science Theater, where there's a little bit of an opening that introduces the game. So there'll be a little bit of that fun, host of a late night thing kind of going on with this game. And Professor Perkins has a little bit of a story behind him too. So we'll reveal more as we go along. Dan Skipalin's, of course, with us. He's part of the testing that we've been doing right now. So he knows everything about this. Harvey, honey, good. I hope it sounds fun to you. Hopefully you'll enjoy what we do with it. Well, Dan, 38 episodes, including this one. You just watch all them again. Yeah.
Well, you like we said, you will see Steven at least once a month. So
at least, yeah.
So he won't be gone forever.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be gone forever. Oh, thank you, Hora, honey. Thank you. Yeah, my wife, she said I look good in these glasses, so I was like, okay.
I thought they were real glasses when I first saw them, to be honest.
Yeah,
I thought they look so good on you.
I mean, the only thing I don't like right now is a glare in my eye, but
I can see the glare on the screen as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out a way, but I have to do this.
That's the one thing with glasses, and that was the one thing with ring lights as well. Ring lights, if anyone using ring lights, you can kind of always see the rings in people's eyes, especially if they're wearing glasses, you can see it in the reflection. That's why I went with regular lights when I bought a lighting kit. I was always afraid of that. Yeah. I still can't get the hang of lighting. So that's another thing I got to figure out over time.
This is why you go to school for it.
True. And then I watched the tutorials on YouTube as well. And then even then I watched them, but I'm like, that's not even quite exactly the setup I have. So I don't even know if it's going to work. So I'll figure it out eventually. But Steven, I guess if you want to transition over to what we do here on the show one last time, roll it up.
Do it together. At least one last. I mean, like I said, I could come back and hang out for an episode here and there. I don't think that would be crazy to think that wouldn't happen at some point. But the routine of every other week coming on here, we're off of that. But all right, guys, let's do it. Let's do it again. Let's talk about announcements. A little bit of everything happened the last couple weeks.
We did. It was.
Where are we going? Where are we going with this?
Let's start off with Warner Archive because I feel like they popped up and I was elated with their slate to the point where I put they announced into our notes because they're doing great stuff, and I'm gonna ride the Warner Archive train until whenever it ends. I'm still like, even though I've been saying this pretty much since this started that they were going away, I still have that fear. So I'm gonna ride this train forever. And this time we've got some good stuff. Good stuff. Actually, some TV in here as well, which I know we won't get to. But first up here is Act of Violence, a film by Fred Zinnemann. Fred Zinnemann, I think, is still one of the most underrated directors of all time. I think he won at least 2 Oscars. He did From Here to Eternity. I'm pretty sure he did High Noon, which I believe that 4K just came out from Kino of High Noon, that re-release. He also did A Man for All Seasons. He did The Nun Story. Just a really all-time great director in my opinion. And he won 4 Oscars, but I want to say at least 2 or 3 of them were for Best Director, which is impressive. Yeah, he won Best Director. Let's see, I gotta open this up. Yeah, he won Best Director for From Here to Eternity. He won Best Director for A Man for All Seasons, and then he won Best Picture for A Man for All Seasons. And then he won another
probably
one.
Producer credits in there.
Yeah, and then he won for Best Documentary Short Subjects in 1952 with a movie called Benji. But he was nominated a bunch of other times as well. But Fred Zinnemann is a great director.
Benji the dog movie?
Yeah, you know what? I don't think it's Benji the dog movie.
I doubt it. Yeah.
I doubt it highly.
It's not quite like when Babe got nominated for Best Picture in what, the 90s?
Yes.
Remember the movie Babe? Yeah.
Yeah, didn't George Miller direct that?
George Miller, yeah.
Yes, he did.
It's quite crazy to think that a movie about a talking pig got nominated for Best Picture.
If it's good, it got nominated.
I'm not saying it isn't good. It's just it's an odd thing to think about, Like that movie doesn't get nominated today.
Yeah,
and what's funny is you only had 5 nominations then.
Yeah, even with the extended ones, I don't know if that movie gets nominated. I mean, Beauty and the Beast was nominated for Best Picture back in what, 94? No.
92.
92, I think you're right.
91 or 92. Hey, Dan, you tell us.
Yeah, I couldn't even remember. But anyway, back to Act of Violence, 1948. A former prisoner of war, Frank Enley, is hailed as a hero in his California town. However, Frank has a shameful secret that comes back to haunt him when fellow survivor Joe Parkson emerges, intent on making Frank pay for his past deeds. So this is a movie I watched years ago. It stars Van Heflin, who's one of my favorites, and Robert Ryan as well. Janet Leigh is in the film as well, Mary Astor. I remember really liking this movie a lot. It's in that it's kind of a film noir, because it's in that era, but I remember it being incredibly dramatic and well acted, all that kind of stuff. It's been years since I've seen it, but I really like it a lot. Highly recommended. It's going to go right in my Fred Zinnemann section. It's got a new 4K restoration, feature commentary by film historian Drew Casper. I'm pretty sure they just carried over the special features from the DVD. But I think this is one people wanted for a while. There's a more descriptive here on Blu-ray.com. It's one of those things where it's dealing with the idea of people coming home from World War II. Obviously, they've experienced such horrors and such things, and they're being hailed as heroes, but there's deep, undertow, under the surface wounds and things that they can't quite deal with because it's the 1940s and no one was dealing with PTSD. No one was dealing with things like that. But it's also dealing with, perhaps he did some things during the war that he's ashamed of and doesn't want to come to surface. But you've got other soldiers that perhaps, saw you do those things. It's a very, very good film. Highly recommended.
Very, very much like Best Years of Our Lives.
Something like that. Yes, something similar to that. Next up is The Man I Love, which is a film I've also seen let's see, torch singer Petey Brown is beautiful and smart. The beautiful gets her in trouble. She'll need all the smarts to get out of it in this bluesy boozy noir salute to tough dames and tough times.
Mm.
That's a great saying. On a holiday visit to her family in the waning days of World War II, Petey expects a Merry Christmas. Instead, she gets a tangled web of mobsters, cheating wives, war traumatized vets, and the kind of love that grabs hold fast and goes wrong faster. Ida Lupino portrays Petey, so that already had
There
me
you
hooked.
go. Yep.
Scoring a triumph under the direction of Raoul Walsh, who helped put her on the road to stardom in the Bogart classic High Sierra, which has a Criterion release. The Man I Love is also notable for its songbook of sophisticated standards as one of the inspirations for Martin Scorsese's New York, New York. This new Blu-ray presentation restores 6 minutes cut from the film and unseen for nearly 7 decades. Yeah, it's newly remastered in 4K restoration. It's got 2 cartoons, roughly squeaking, and slick hair. They always like to add the Looney Tunes on there. This is another movie that I had seen a while ago and remember liking a lot. It's a movie, like I said, it's in that film noir time frame. It's got Ida Lupino. It came out in 1947. Good director and Raoul Walsh. It cooks all of that old Hollywood standard stuff that I
Yeah.
love, you know? So definitely highly recommended. All of these I can't wait to add, but this is the biggest one. This next one, Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Hmm.
This is the Alfred Hitchcock film. This is people have mistakenly thought that the Mr. and Mrs. Smith that we got with Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt was a remake of this, and it's not. There's also a Mr. and Mrs. Smith TV
Show.
series
Yeah.
now on Amazon Prime, which is a remake of the Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt film, which has no connection to this one either.
Yeah.
But this is significant because it's an Alfred Hitchcock film that stars Carol Lombard, and I believe this may have been the last film that she had done before she passed. I have to check on that. But I remember Pat Hitchcock talking in an interview about Carol Lombard, Pat Hitchcock being Alfred Hitchcock's daughter. No, her last film was To Be or Not to Be, which was 1942. And that's the Ernst Lubitsch film,
Yeah.
which has a Criterion release. That's a great film that I don't think a lot of people talk about much anymore. But yeah, unfortunately, Carol Lombard died in 1942. I think she died in a plane crash, if I remember correctly.
Mm.
But anywho, this film it has been on DVD for many, many years from Warner Brothers, but it's significant for me and I guess other enthusiast collectors because this will mean that every film that Alfred Hitchcock directed from 1940 all the way up until his last film in Family Plot in 1976, I think, will have at least a Blu-ray release. Some have obviously been upgraded to 4K, but this will mean that all of that portion of his catalog will have a Blu-ray release. There are some films I think still left in his 1930s and 1920s catalog that hasn't had the upgrade yet, but most of them have. I mean, I know Kino's put out um, they put out Blackmail, they put out Murder, I think they put out like a 3-film Hitchcock set as well. And
Yeah.
then
The
The Lodger,
silence. The
the
silence.
Lodge, yeah, The Lodger got a Blu-ray release from Criterion a few years ago. That was a big get for us. So yeah, that'll mean that chunk of time frame has all gotten upgraded. But this is an interesting comedy film from Alfred Hitchcock. Just going by a couple who have been married for 3 years are shocked to learn that their marriage is not legally valid. This film stars, like I said, Carol Lombard and Robert Montgomery. And what happens is they got married, I believe, in like a foreign country or something like that, or the person who did it wasn't legally able to or ordain marriages or something. It's one of those things where it's not recognized here, but it's recognized there, whatever the case may be. So they're not legally married. So they decide that they're going to start dating other people.
Yeah.
And what we end up getting is kind of one of those movies where inevitably these two people want to be together, but they're just taking like zany paths to get there. It's kind of a rubric for a lot of modern day romantic comedies, kind of like It Happened One Night. So they end up like dating other people and all this kind of stuff, and they kind of play these cat and mouse manipulative games where they try to like make one another jealous, all of those things. I remember really liking the movie. I probably haven't seen it in over 10 years, but I'm just glad that it's getting an upgrade.
Yeah.
I dig it. So this is getting a new 4K restoration as well. Um, and yeah, it's something I'm glad we're getting. So next is a movie called The Shining Hour, which I had not seen until it was announced here. And this movie stars Joan Crawford. When Joan Crawford saw The Shining Hour on the Broadway stage, she pleaded with MGM executives to let her spread her acting wings in the film version. Miss Crawford got her way, playing a New York siren who marries a prosperous farmer, portrayed by Melvin Douglas, one of my favorite actors of all time. I believe he's the grandfather of Ileana Douglas, the actress.
I've never heard you say this actor is one of your favorite
Melvin
actors.
Douglas, really? I've never spouted my love for Melvin Douglas.
I don't think so.
Melvin Douglas is a great actor. Melvin Douglas, I remember he was in the movie HUD with Paul Newman, and he plays Paul Newman's father in that film. They have a very contentious relationships. He was also in the movie Being There with Peter Sellers. That was one of his final roles.
Love that movie.
I think he was nominated for an Oscar for that. I don't know if it was posthumously or something like that. But yeah, he's great. He was also in the movie Danachka. He's in Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House with Cary Grant. Great actor. Just, yeah, he won 2 Oscars in his career. He won he won for Being There. There you go. He won. Yeah, it says...
Wait, he just won for being there?
Yeah, I guess so. But it says Melvin Douglas...
That's messed up.
Yeah, 1980, Being There. Melvin Douglas was not present at the award ceremony. Co-presenter Liza Minnelli accepted the award on his behalf. And then he won for HUD. HUD still needs a Blu-ray release.
I was gonna say, I know that's
damn
one year.
Give me that Blu-ray release.
Yeah.
Right? So HUD has been on DVD for years. It's a Martin Ritt film. Paramount put out the DVD, and with Paramount kind of like shedding their wings over the last several years and handing out like licenses to everybody, I've been waiting for this.
It's gonna come out. It's gonna come out on Paramount Presents on 4K probably in the next couple of years.
That would be a route. That would be a route that I would happily take. I would happily take a Kino release. It feels like with Kino putting out like Nobody's Fool and Twilight, I feel like that would be work. If they're putting out Paul Newman catalog titles, let's go. Let's get it done. That's what I've been waiting for my whole life. I remember one night I was in a depressive state, and I was at Barnes and Noble on a rainy weekend night, just down in the doldrums, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna buy HUD on DVD and watch it, and that kind of lifted my spirits.
Yeah.
The magic of movies and Paul Newman on screen. So that's my kind of little tangent on there. But The Shining Hour, like I said, stars Melvin Douglas, and he's like a rich. He comes from a rich family who has this large like industrial farm or whatever. So Joan Crawford marries him, and then they move back to his place. She's from the city. She's from a different part of the societal hierarchy. She's kind of a dancing girl. He's a rich aristocrat. So obviously one of the themes of the movie is going to be like class clashing and stuff like that. So when they go back there's immediately like things that are going to go awry. But there she is drawn to the handsome brother portrayed by Robert Young. And basically they end up having kind of a secret, flirtatious, contentious romance behind the back of Melvin Douglas, and also behind the back of Robert Young's character's wife, portrayed by Margaret Sullivan, who's also a great actress. This movie is directed by Frank Borzage. Mm-hmm. Frank Borzage is a director whose work I'm only coming into over the last few years because a lot of his stuff has been getting released. I'm thinking of a couple of Criterion ones that I'm blanking on. I have it over there. This is one of the things that's going to be a pain in the butt when it comes to doing this by
Oh,
myself.
I can't fill in space for you while
Yeah,
you.
you're not gonna be able to fill in space for me. It's
Yeah,
gonna be an
I can't.
absolute
La
nightmare.
da da. You can
I
do
know.
you,
I'm gonna need like a sound bite of you just
skiddly
talking
da. Yeah,
gibberish.
just yeah.
uh,
Skiddly
his,
diddly
yeah,
do.
History is Made at Night and Moonrise are two movies that
There you
Criterion
go.
put out of his. Um, but a lot of his other stuff's been put out by Kino over the years.
Yeah.
So that's why I've been kind of slowly consuming his stuff over time. But like I said, you've got this culture clash, you've got this traumatic tension within this family. Also, there's an older sister of Melvin Douglas and Robert Young who is very protective and very like controlling and kind of obsessed with the brother characters. So she doesn't like the Joan Crawford character coming in and kind of shaking up the family dynamic.
Yeah.
Really good film. Really good film. I really liked it a lot. It's got a
Awesome.
lot of good stuff in there with kind of world class actors. Joan Crawford, one of the best of all time. But that is it from Warner Archive. If anybody's interested in the TV show stuff, they're putting out the Flash series from the 90s.
Yeah.
They're putting that out with John Wesley Shipp as Barry Allen from The Flash. And they're putting out The Alaskans, which is a series starring Roger Moore from the 60s. So deep catalog stuff on TV as well.
Yeah. When I
Cool.
when I see that Flash TV show, I just think, oh look, it's Dawson's dad.
Was John Wesley Shipp Dawson's dad?
Dawson's dad and Dawson's
I
Creek.
didn't even realize that
Yeah.
until you just said that. Holy heck.
Yeah, I know, right?
If you want like kind of a deeper cut, Mark Hamill was a villain on that Flash series.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think he reprised his role on that Flash series that just ended. That was on the CW.
Yep.
They brought Mark Hamill in to do that because they also brought John Wesley Shipp in as well.
He plays. Yeah, he plays
to play a different version of the Flash. Yeah,
He plays
his father.
He plays his father. He plays Grant Gustin
Yes, he does.
He plays his dad in that show, but he is a Flash from a
He
previous
plays
Flash.
his dad in that show, but then he also plays a Flash from another universe. They went multiverse in that, so it's a whole big thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he played the original Flash.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
well,
yeah, that's awesome. Getting into comic books.
Yeah. Before we move on, Josephine asked, does Adeline get along with the cat? Because I don't know if you saw this, Andrew. The cat was.
I did see the cat.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I should acknowledge it at the time because I was kind of rolling. But
no, you roll, man. You roll.
Right.
Okay. Put it this way. The baby Adeline does not. She gets along with the cat and the dog by running at them and screaming at them. So yeah, she gets along with them fine. She has no problems with the animals. She ain't afraid of them at all. She just tortures them. So yeah.
Oh, how lovely. Yeah. There's also another comment here by Josephine. I think she just saw a King Hu film. And King Hu is someone we've talked about a little bit on the show.
And Dan, I didn't say the Flash TV show wasn't good. Where did I not say that? When did I say that it was bad? I just said that.
But which one's he talking about? The one from the 90s or the one that just ended?
I think he's talking about the new one. I'm guessing. And even if he's talking about the old one, I didn't say either one of them shows were bad. I just said that he was Dawson's dad. That's all I said, Dan. God, you're so
That's true.
sensitive.
That's true.
So sensitive.
Let me go back. I'm also starting to realize here that I can actually see the comments on the screen, which is it's brand new for me.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
It's weird. But as I was saying, Josephine said something about King Hu.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, gotcha. There's that, and then she said she hadn't seen one before. Or did I miss that?
All right, you're slowing the show down now.
Okay,
I don't. Let me give you a little hosting 101. You can't put every comment on the screen.
That's very true.
Yeah.
But I'll say this: if people want to get into King Hu work, A Touch of Zen, I think is really good. And there was another one that Criterion had put out as well that was also really fantastic. Yeah. So yeah, check out his work. What's interesting, they're kind of sneaking in like a bunch of his stuff from in a couple of the box sets and a couple of stuff that like Eureka's putting out in '88. So a lot of more King Hu stuff. King Hu is that's just a cool name. Like I wish that was my name.
We can call you King Hu if you want. If
But
that's what
let's
you
move.
want, if that's what you want, change your name from Andrew
I
Carall's
know
thing to
to
King
King
Who.
Who. I don't think that would be culturally appropriate.
Hey,
Yeah,
people
talk
are
about
people
cultural
people
appropriation.
are doing whatever the hell they want to these days. They're
That's very, very
identifying
true.
as seasons of the year now. Like they're
Well,
doing to.
people have
Uh,
always had the names of seasons. Like if you met somebody named
no,
Summer
I'm
or
talking about
Autumn.
identifying as a
Ah,
season, as like it's a gender.
I was thinking like
We're not
500
going to
Days
get
of
into
Summer.
it. I'm just saying people are doing whatever the hell they want these days. It's fine.
Indeed.
It's
Speaking of
fine.
doing whatever we want, I guess we can move on
Sure.
to somebody else. Let's see. I do want to let's sneak this in right now. So Scream and Shout Factory announced their July titles today. They love to do
Mm.
this on a Monday. They love to do this on a Monday
Yeah, I don't know
afternoon.
why. Why would they do that?
Couple of things here that are worthy of note. The big one I know a lot of people are buzzing about. Uh, Weird Al's UHF is getting a 4K re-release.
Mm.
Always a fun movie. If you haven't seen Weird Al's UHF and you're a big fan of Weird Al, I'll definitely recommend it. I remember when that Blu-ray came out in 2014, and people were buzzing about it back then. And now we're getting a 4K release. There's also like a big like bundle that they've got. I think it's a Shout Factory store exclusive.
Yeah.
Um, that's something that they're going to be putting out. Phantoms, I think is kind of a movie that people have liked over the years. Not a great movie, but I always kind of liked it.
Yeah.
Steven, have you seen it?
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
So Phantoms, directed by Joe Chappelle. You know who's in this movie? Peter O'Toole,
You're totally.
legend. Rose McGowan, Liev Schreiber, Ben Affleck.
Ben
This is
Affleck just flies in there like it's me, Ben Affleck. Yeah.
yeah. There's a famous quote from this movie saying all day, which I should have wrote down, but it's like Affleck, you were the bomb in Phantoms. I think that's from Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back.
Mm.
With this movie,
that would be a thing that Kevin Smith would put in his movie.
yeah.
Some obscure.
Well, at the time,
Yeah,
Jay
at
and
the
Silent
time,
Bob came out in 2001. But he had just finished working with Ben Affleck a few years earlier in Dogma, and then Chasing Amy, of course, before then, and Mallrats. So yeah, of course he would stick that in there. Plus, Ben Affleck is in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a whole big universe thing. But anywho, Phantoms, kind of an underrated movie. But what's cool about this release for me as just a collector is this is a Miramax / Dimension Films title from the 90s. And something's going on right now, Steven, because we're getting the Miramax titles on Blu-ray are getting re-released or they're coming out on Blu-ray for the first time. In this case, it's a 4K release. So the catalog is being slowly opened up.
Yeah.
We're getting stuff. There's going to be 2 Miramax titles we're going to talk about later when it comes to Imprint. So that was a big surprise for me, but this is kind of a cool release. And so Phantoms has been released on Blu-ray before, but they've only been released, at least here in the US, remember I talked about Echo Bridge? In those Echo Bridge collections of like 3 films, 5 film titles on like 2 discs or whatever.
Yeah.
Phantoms included in there with like a bunch of other things. Like there's like a 5 or 6 movie set where they've got like a random Hellraiser sequel. They've got like Halloween 6. They've got Phantoms, and they've got like some other random 90s Miramax Dimension films in there. And that was the only way you could get Phantoms for the longest time. And it was never released by itself until we're getting this 4K release, which is really cool. I don't even know if people know what Phantoms is, but if I remember correctly, it's kind of like, is it an alien invasion movie? It's in a peaceful small town of Snowfield, Colorado, something evil has wiped out the community, and now it's up to a group of people to stop it or at least get out of Snowfield alive.
Get out of Snowfield.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's in the same vein, actually, as The Faculty.
Yeah.
Where you've got like a young group of people having to fight against some evil entity that's invaded some place. You know, so that's it's pretty much in that vein, but I think it's underrated in my opinion. But moving on from Phantoms.
Before you talk about that, Horror Honey had a question. Did you guys get Erica Schultz's book, Sweetest Taboo? It's so good.
I did not.
Yeah, I don't read a lot. It's because my life doesn't allow it, but yeah, I have to check into it. I'll have to look into that.
I actually do want to get into that as well. There's a lot of film books that are just I'm not aware of that
Yeah,
that get released and people talk about them. A lot of them get released by people we've talked to
of
on
course.
here on the podcast. And yeah, I got to get my hands on some of those books, but I'm not quite sure where to find them. Steven, I know you bought a few of them. I think you got
Yeah, I
the
did. I
ones
did.
that came with the sets. I remember you got a couple of
I
those.
bought Oh man, I wish I could grab
Yeah,
it.
I remember you got the one
I
of
got the
the
one from Alexandra Heller Nicholas's Women in Horror book.
yeah, you got that. And I think you got the one that came with the Psychotic Women box
Psychotic
set
Women.
from Severin.
Yeah, I got that
The
that
Killer
collection.
Janice book. I
Yeah,
believe it was
Kayla
Killer
Janice's
Janice.
book.
Yes.
Yeah, I
There's a
got
lot
that.
of those books I want to get my hands on, but
Mhm.
they can be expensive, especially if they're hardcover
They're
and they're kind of
hardcovers.
like
Yeah.
textbook level stuff. It brings me back to the days of buying textbooks in college, and it's like,
Mhm.
I'm never going to use this $100 textbook. Why are you making me buy it? You bastards.
Then I
Uh,
sell it to the thrift store.
Thing is, you sell it back to you sell it back to the store for like $10, and it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, thanks, guys.
Great.
Because the next year they come out with a new edition, and this one's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Bastards.
Yep.
That's scam. But anywho, there's a couple more here I want to talk about. Um, uh, House of Gucci, the Ridley Scott film, is finally getting a 4K release because it was initially, I think, only released on Blu-ray, if I remember correctly, or was it released on 4K?
I never saw this movie. Ridley Scott had, I think, like 5 movies come out that
It
year.
was 2021 when he had those 2 movies. He had The
Yeah, yeah.
Last Duel, and he had this
Which
movie come
is
out the same
I
year.
hear it. I mean, I've seen The Last Duel, and it's pretty good.
It is. It's very good.
Last Duel is better than this movie.
As someone who's seen both,
Yeah.
it is.
Okay.
This movie, I think this movie was talked about so much for the negative reasons in it than for the
Yeah.
positive reasons in it, because Jared Leto was doing the most comical Italian accent you've ever heard, like Mario from Super Mario Brothers level of cartoonish. And people were just living it up on the internet. But yeah, initially this movie only got a Blu-ray release when it came out. And it never got a 4K until now, until July 30th, when this is coming out. To be honest, I don't know if it's a movie I would drop like $30 for a 4K for. You know what
Yeah.
I mean, Steven? It
Yeah,
doesn't.
but you got to complete your Ridley
I
Scott.
do. I do. I would let me put it this way. I would rather pay for The Last Duel in 4K at that price
Oh yeah.
than for House of Gucci. Um, but I wanted to make sure to mention that. I know the newest um The Boy and the Heron, the newest Hayao Miyazaki film, is getting both a steelbook 4K release as well as a regular um standard Blu-ray release, as well as a steelbook. I think it's getting a steelbook as well, or maybe not. I think
I'm
it just
sure it is. They're going all out with
they do
high.
that
Yeah.
eventually with all
Yeah.
the. But I've been wondering when this was gonna come out because I saw the movie last year and it was fantastic. So this should be coming out July 9th, both on 4K and on Blu-ray. I don't think I own any Hayao Miyazaki or any Studio Ghibli films in
What?
4K.
What? Oh, 4K. I was gonna say you don't own
Yeah.
any of his
Oh no,
movies.
I own a bunch of them actually. I have a whole
Yeah.
like little section over here that I
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
at all the time. Um, yeah, but it's coming out through G Kids, which is partnered up with Shout Factory over the
Yeah.
last few years to put out a lot of Studio Ghibli stuff. So that's definitely something people want to keep their eyeballs on. But while I'm talking about this, there were 2 store exclusives or website exclusives, I should say, rather, that they announced this week that are actually already. I've seen people already have it in their collection. Coincidentally, there's this movie called The Getaway, starring Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger. And this movie is a remake of the Sam Peckinpah film from 1973.
Hmm.
So if you were curious what a 1990s version of a 1973 Sam Peckinpah film would look like, you got your answer.
There you go.
You got your answer. And The Getaway is directed by Roger Donaldson, who's a director we've talked about before. He directed
Yes.
Species. He directed Cocktail,
Yeah.
The Bounty from 1984 with Mel Gibson and um, Anthony Hopkins. No Way Out, Kevin Costner. He
Yep.
directed that. Dante's Peak, that 1990s
Solid.
uh,
The
volcano
better of
disaster
the 2
film.
volcano movies, I would
I
say.
never saw the other one.
You never saw Volcano?
No, it's kind
Wow.
of like the whole. I've never seen Deep Impact.
What?
I've never seen Deep Impact. I always saw Armageddon.
What the hell?
Yeah, I didn't know if
Yeah,
there was
but you picked the better movies. It's fine.
yeah, I think I picked
Because
I may have picked the
Armageddon's
better
better
movies both
than
times.
Deep Impact, and for sure Dante's Peak is better than Volcano. Though Volcano is pretty fun.
I don't
Yeah,
doubt it.
it's pretty fun.
Is
Yeah.
Volcano is Tommy Lee Jones in
Tommy
there?
Lee Jones,
Mhm.
Volcano erupts in the middle of a city.
Happens. That happens.
It's fun. You see a guy get melted in lava.
Oh,
Yeah,
brutal. That's a brutal way to
in a
go.
subway, yeah.
Oh, brutal way to go. He also Roger Donaldson also directed a movie called The Recruit from 2003, starring Al Pacino and Colin Farrell. Super underrated movie. Super underrated movie. It's been available on Blu-ray for years. If you can find it for cheap, highly recommend it. It's that early 2000s Colin Farrell when he was like starting to make his rise. Like this was, I think, the movie he did after Phone Booth. So think of that era of Colin
And the
Farrell.
era where he was still kind of crazy in like his
Yes.
personal
Yeah.
life. And then he had
Exactly. He was
then he
kind of
had
a
to
wild man.
yeah,
Kind of a
then he
wild
had to
man.
take a break and then he reassessed. And then
His
he came
life.
back and now he's like the man.
And this was also that era of Al Pacino where he was doing kind of movies that no one talks about. Like, what's that movie? The Robert De Niro.
Oh, shit.
So, why am I saying?
I see it. I see the poster because
I'm
the
thinking of like
Righteous Kill.
Righteous Kill. That's what it is. Like,
Yeah, it's
that
not a good
era
movie.
of Al
It's
Pacino.
not a good movie.
And then he did what, Two for the Money with
for the Money, yeah.
Matthew McConaughey about sports betting, which actually gets more relevant over time because sports betting's like massive now, or at least it's just out in the open now. So yeah, so stuff like that. But so back to The Getaway. So if you've seen the 1973 Sam Peckinpah film, you've seen the plot of this movie. But Doc McCoy, portrayed by uh, Alec Baldwin in this, is put in prison because his partners chickened out and flew off without him after exchanging a prisoner with a lot of money. That's not exactly what happens. Basically, he does a deal and he basically gets double crossed.
Yeah.
And he gets basically his partners that are doing the job with him leave him behind, and he ends up in prison. And the woman he is with, portrayed by Kim Basinger, makes a deal with like a local gangster guy to get him out of prison to pull off a heist. And the local gangster is portrayed by James Woods, pure and utter slime in this film, which I guess is good because that's what he plays well throughout his career.
Mhm.
It's just slime balls. And basically she makes a deal with James Woods, gets him out of prison, and he has to pull off this heist with him, this heist for him, basically. And then it ends up happening, but then madness ensues afterwards. Things don't go quite smoothly afterward. Like I said, the film has Alec Baldwin, Kim Basinger, Michael Madsen's in this film, James Woods, David Morse, Jennifer Tilly's in this film at one point. It's an interesting kind of fun 90s thriller action film with Alec Baldwin, really.
Yeah.
I know his career has taken a bit of a turn now, but once upon a time, he was a pretty big star. Kim Basinger always looks stunning on screen. She's good in the movie. It's a fine film. It's exactly kind of what I described to you, just kind of a basic 90s thriller. The Sam Peckinpah film in the 70s starred Steve McQueen and Ali MacGraw. And of course, it's got that Sam Peckinpah grittiness, the great editing, great action sequences, all the cool stuff that you've come to know from Sam Peckinpah in the 70s. That film is a lot better. That film could use a Blu-ray re-release, if I'm being honest. But this is a store exclusive or a website exclusive that you got to get directly from them. It's limited to like less than 2,000 copies. Like they really limit their stuff.
What they do, yeah.
Yeah, they really limit their stuff, unfortunately. There's another exclusive from their website, and that is the movie Death and the Maiden. Now, I just talked a little bit about Alec Baldwin, how he is in a little bit of trouble these days, you would say. Well, this movie is directed by Roman Polanski. So, diving full into the troubled people world, at least in this case, a much, much worse scenario, I would say so. But this is a 1994 film, like I said, directed by Roman Polanski, starring Sigourney Weaver and Ben Kingsley are the people that you would know most prominently. A political activist is convinced that her guest is a man who once tortured her for the government. So what happens is this is like some unnamed South American countries going through a regime change in their government. They don't really say what country, could be whatever. And Sigourney Weaver's husband, I think, works for the new government that's coming into power. Maybe there was a coup that happened or whatever, but apparently the old government was like torturous, like lockdown, tyrannical bastards. And perhaps Ben Kingsley was their main torture guy. Like he was the one who tortured political prisoners. And Sigourney Sigourney Weaver sees him and believes it's him. During her because she was a political prisoner at one point and she was tortured, but she was blindfolded, so she never saw the person. But she knows the voice, she knows certain other hints and things like that. So it just so happens that he stops at their house for some reason, or he meets her husband in some way. So he brings him home for like dinner or something, and she takes it upon herself to then kidnap him and then torture him to get the truth out of him. And he is resistant the whole time. Like he has no idea. He says he's never seen her before. Her husband is trying to like mediate the situation, and things get dark and heavy and stuff. And it's good film. It's based on a play, I believe, something like that, because it all takes place in one area. It all takes place in a house, and it's all very stagey. It's all very stagey. A lot of heavy acting, drama. Feels like it would be done on a stage and be pulled off really, really well. So that's this movie. But obviously, if you're not a fan of Roman Polanski, that makes a hell of a lot of sense. So you may not even be interested in this movie at all. So that's this movie called Death. What did I say, Stephen? Death and the Maiden? Or
That's it.
Yeah, Death and the Maiden. So that's it from Shout Factory. That's all the Shout stuff. Where do we want to go to now, Stephen? Where do you feel like venturing to?
You wanted to go do Kino?
Okay. Let me see if I actually got my Kino up. Oh, I did. Of course, I didn't scroll down to where we were before. They were quiet until like the last few days, and they just decided, hey, let's go a little wild. They announced like 3 noir box sets in the last like weekend. Over the weekend.
I told you. I've been saying this.
I'm gonna mention them, but I'm
done.
I'm not
With
like
the film noir sets from Kino.
So
I'm done.
Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna go down here to the one where we left off last time. This is kind of fun. 1994 was an interesting year because we got 2 movies with similar premises. We were just talking about movies with similar premises: Deep Impact and Armageddon, Volcano and Dante's Peak. Well, 94 they did it again. They did it as well. We have a movie called Blown Away. Came out in 1994, and this is gonna sound a little familiar to people because it's a heck of a familiarity to me when I read the premise. So this movie stars Tommy Lee Jones as well as Jeff Bridges. I guess Jeff Bridges wanted to do an action film in the 90s, even though he was kind of in his 40s, even though I felt like he had done action films before or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not remembering, possibly. So, okay, here we go. Blown Away. I just want to get the premise up. So, Blown Away tells a story of Jimmy Dove, who works for the Boston Bomb Squad. Shortly after Dove leaves the force, his partner is killed by a bomb that Dove thinks might have been made by someone he knows. Okay, so premise of this movie, loose premise. He's a police officer, and someone is haunting him that's a bombs expert. Sounds like Speed. Sounds like the movie Speed with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock and Dennis Hopper and Jeff Daniels that came out the exact same year. This has a few wrinkles to it, different wrinkles to it. Obviously, one was when I don't even know where Speed was set. Was it L.A., New York,
Los
somewhere
Angeles,
around
yeah.
there? Yeah,
Los Angeles.
This is set in Boston. Initially, I'm listening to like Jeff Bridges' accent, and I'm like, this is a kind of a rough accent. Is it supposed to be? It's supposed to be a Boston, Massachusetts accent. It kind of is, but it's also supposed to be Irish as well, because there's a backstory in here dealing with the IRA and stuff like that. That's the connection between these characters. They show you that it's kind of a spoiler. I'm sorry. but you kind of have to
Damn.
you kind of have to understand why this character is after Jeff Bridges. There's a whole backstory between there, but Tommy Lee Jones in an Irish accent,
Yeah,
interesting as
I
well.
can't, I can't wait to hear that shit.
It's a little interesting as well.
Because I hate to say this, but Tommy Lee Jones, I feel like
Only has like one.
he worked the hard. What's funny is the movie I think he worked the hardest at is one of his shittiest movies, and that's Batman Forever. Batman Forever. Like,
Okay,
I
okay.
mean, I don't hate that movie, but if you're talking about like the type of roles he typically takes on, he don't seem like he works that hard. He's
Well,
just being Tommy
yeah.
Lee Jones.
Even in The Fugitive, which he was nominated and won an Oscar for, he's good in it, but he's not like stretching his.
He's not stretching
He's
his
not really
abilities.
stretching his ability in that film. He's playing the role very, very well. The role is supposed to be a very serious, kind of stoic role. He's hunting down
Well,
Harrison
he's got
Ford the
some
whole time.
charisma. He's got some charisma.
Yeah, but that's kind of like his natural charisma
Yeah.
that Tommy Lee Jones has. But in this film, he's playing like an ex-IRA bombs expert bad guy. Like he's a villain in this. Like he's blowing up places. You know what I mean? Like he's killing people essentially. And he's hunting down Jeff Bridges and making his life a living nightmare. So that's that film, but it reminded me of Speed, where you have the Dennis Hopper character who's had a past relationship with the Keanu Reeves character, and he's now hunting him down and making his life a mess.
That's not what happens.
Is that not what happens?
No, he doesn't have a past relationship with him.
Well, the movie opens with Keanu and his partner going after him. That's what I meant.
I mean,
they got a past history of some kind.
Very short history,
very
but
short history of good guy versus bad guy. You know,
it's very short history where he stopped him from getting his money, trying to do a elevator bomb deal, and then not too long after that he gets him set up in a new game. So
yeah. But the idea of somebody coming after somebody, and who's a bombs expert,
I get it.
Yeah, and I want to say, let's see, who directed this movie? Stephen Hopkins, another kind of career director that we talk about frequently. Predator 2. He directed Predator 2. Underrated movie, in my opinion. I think that's super underrated. He also directed A Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Child. He directed Lost in Space, Ghost in the Darkness. It's a movie we talked about a long time ago.
Love that movie.
Yeah, Ghost in the Darkness. What else did he direct? I don't think there's anything else. Oh, is that The Reaping? Yes, it is. Remember that movie? The Reaping?
The one where they're in the swamp area. It's got
Hilary Swank.
Hilary Swank in it, yeah.
Idris Elba's in the movie.
Got some
this is 2007.
Yeah.
Yeah, he directed that, and he also directed Under Suspicion, which I believe we just talked about as well.
Maybe.
Yes, I think it was in yeah, I think we talked about Under Suspicion recently. So that's Blown Away. So let me go back to where we were before. And this is actually a 4K UHD release of this movie. First disc being the 4K, second disc being the Blu-ray. Got 2 audio commentaries, I believe, on each disc, as well as a couple of special features as well. And this is coming out June 18th, day after my birthday. Let's see, we're skipping over that one because it wasn't good. And then we're moving up to, okay, so they're releasing a Blu-ray of The Music Box with Jessica Lange, but Imprint has already released that in their Jessica Lange box set. So if you have that Jessica Lange box set, you already have that movie. But this one is getting a brand new 2024 HD master from a 4K scan. So I guess if you want that upgrade, you can go for that. But next is a movie called Diary of a Chambermaid from 1964, starring Jean Moreau. And the reason why I included this on our notes is because it's directed by Louis Buñuel, who did Belle de Jour, The Obscure Object of Desire. Yeah, so if you're familiar with his work, definitely pick it up. Diary of a Chambermaid is also, it's kind of a well-known story. Celestine has a new job as a chambermaid for the quirky Monsieur Montel, his wife, and her father. When the father dies, Celestine decides to quit her job and leave. But when a young girl is murdered, and Celestine believes that the Montel's groundskeeper Joseph is guilty and stays on in order to prove it. She uses her sexuality and promise of marriage to get Joseph to confess, but things do not go as planned. This movie is available to stream on Tubi right now if people are interested in checking it out. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch it, but it's Louis Buñuel, so I'll always take a flyer on his
Yeah.
work. Belle de Jour is still, I still think about that movie very often, very often because it's such an interesting, deep film with a very obscure ending. He of course directed Viridiana, which needs a Blu-ray release. Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie, Exterminating Angel is another one of his films.
Yeah, that's the one
Uh,
I've seen.
that's a good one. As I got Uncien,
Surreal, very
yeah,
surreal movie.
Uncien Andalo. I think he co-directed with. No, he didn't co-direct. I thought he did. Um, is a 1929 just kind of classic film. That's the film where he got the razor blade cutting the eye it's kind of just a masterclass in editing that freaks people the hell out. Um, yeah. So great surrealist filmmaking. Kind of surrealism 101 is Louis Buñuel. Great stuff. So moving on from there, let's check out. They're finally releasing Turbulence, the movie we talked about like a year ago.
Yeah.
Coming out on June 18th, 4K UHD, the Ray Liotta film, right? Is it Ray Liotta?
Yeah, Ray Liotta.
Yeah, he's on a plane.
Lauren Holly.
Yeah, and he's like, I believe he's a prisoner being escorted, and he kind of takes over the plane, if I remember correctly. So we've got that. What else do we have? Oh, these are when the box sets kick in, Steven. So
Yeah.
if you didn't get your fill of these film noir box sets from Kino, you get some more of them. So we've got 19, 20, and 21. Damn. So June 18th, Dark Side of Cinema 19. These I'd say they're putting their full tilt into these because all these movies have new commentaries by prominent people. Alan K. Rhodey, Imogen Sarah Smith, Julie Kerrigo, Peter Hancock. These are prominent people. So the first box set, number 19, has Dark City, No Man of Our Own, and Beware My Lovely. This is coming out June 18th. And then we've got number 19. No, number 20 is what I like to call the Alan Ladd set, because 2 out of 3 of these films have Alan Ladd in them. This doesn't have a date yet, but it's Captain Carey, USA from 1950, Appointment with Danger, and then Make Haste to Live. The first 2 films both star Alan Ladd. One is directed by Mitchell Leisen, who I believe they put out a few of his films already. Lewis Allen. I think Lewis Allen directed The Uninvited, which has a Criterion release, if I remember correctly. And then we got 21, which has Cloak and Dagger, Shack Out on 101, and then Shortcut to Hell. Shortcut to Hell is, I believe, directed by James Cagney, which is interesting. And Gary Cooper is in Cloak and Dagger. Lee Marvin is in Shack Out on 101. First film in the film, Cloak and Dagger, is directed by Fritz Lang. And I feel like for some reason that we've gotten that movie before. Or it feels like that movie is something that has been released by somebody. Let's see, Cloak and Dagger it's been released individually before, I think by Olive. Okay, so it's one of those films where Olive obviously doesn't exist anymore, and Kino scooped up the rights and is putting it out. But you could still buy that old Olive Blu-ray if you wanted. So I think, let's see, what else is there from Kino? Nothing. So we're good.
Yeah.
Good for Kino.
All right.
Kino just ended their sale. If anybody kind of scooped up some stuff from there, please let us know what you got.
Don't worry, another one will be around soon.
I hope so, because I got a few, but I'm waiting to do a video on them. And plus, I picked up a couple of other Kinos adjacent, so I was going to include them in there as well.
Right.
But yeah, I did do that. I waited, of course, till the last possible second. And it took them about a week to get my order to me, so it was kind of quick turnaround. Very impressive. Very impressive.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, what do you want to do now? You want to do?
We got some one-offs. I figured get them out of the way.
Let's get the one-offs.
So MVD Rewind Collection, our buddy Eric Wilkinson over at MVD announced another film that they're coming out with this time on July 23rd. And this is an interesting film. It's called The Linguini Incident or
Linguini.
or the
Sorry.
alternate title I think is called Shagorama, which is an odd title to me. Sounds very Austin Powers-ish.
Yeah.
And this movie stars Rosanna Arquette as well as David Bowie.
Cool.
Also, who else is in this movie? I think Andre Gregory, who is in My Dinner with Andre. He's in this film as well. There's only two people in My Dinner with Andre. There's Wallace Shawn and Andre Gregory.
Yeah.
So, he's not Wallace Shawn. Wallace Shawn is the other guy.
Yeah, that guy.
He's in this movie, so I'm just gonna read the script. So, Lucy, portrayed by Rosanna Arquette, who of course is in Pulp Fiction, she plays the girlfriend of Eric Stoltz's character in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, at TCM Fest last weekend, they had a Pulp Fiction reunion for the big red carpet opening. Most of the cast was there. Very, very cool because it's the 30th anniversary of Pulp Fiction, Steven.
It is.
So she was there. Samuel L. Jackson was there. John Travolta was there. Eric Stoltz was there. Very, very interesting. Very cool. Yeah, you can check out all the stuff on their YouTube channel. They got all the interviews and panels and stuff. Very cool stuff. But yeah, so Lucy, portrayed by Rosanna Arquette, is an underpaid waitress at Dali, a terminally hip New York City restaurant who's seriously in need of cash. Dali's new, mysterious, charming, and very in-debt bartender, Monty, portrayed by David Bowie, needs to marry anyone by the end of the week, or else he's going to get deported. He needs a green card marriage, essentially. So together they join forces, including Lucy's best friend Viv, who is a fashion designer, but a unique fashion designer. She's designing clothes that are cool in concept but functionally make no sense. Stuff like that. She designs a bra that like spikes come out of. So like when they put clothes on, like the spikes just come out of everywhere.
How did I miss those, baby?
Yeah, kind of like that. It's like in concept, it's cool, like it would work, but also it's got to be so uncomfortable to walk around with. But basically, the David Bowie character and the Lucy character decide that they are going to join forces to rob this restaurant because Lucy is also like a performance artist. Like she does a Houdini act where she like wraps herself up in a straitjacket and goes underwater and tries to escape, or she goes in like a burlap sack and tries to escape or something like that. So she needs like money in order to buy a ring that she thinks is going to give her good luck or something. And really it's that kind of like weird movie, like weird 90s indie comedy. It also reminds me of like Whit Stillman films from that time. I'm thinking like Barcelona or Last Days of Disco, but more comedically leaning. For those of you who know those films, you kind of understand what I'm saying. Kind of just this weird pocket of people in society that are these real people or are they not? You know what I mean? So they join forces to do this, and also she's going to marry him as well so he can stay in the country if he goes along with her on this little robbery that they're going to do. And then they rope her friend in because nobody knows her friend at this place, so she can rob the place and they won't get caught. It's very like kind of zany in that way. It's playful, it's light, it's very dialogue based. Especially Andre Gregory, who's the owner of this restaurant, he just goes on these weird like monologues. Like I feel like it's just like leftover dialogue from a play that he was in or working on, or My Dinner with Andre type of stuff. But yeah, I dug the vibe of the movie. Like I'm really curious to see what this Blu-ray is going to look like, because the version I saw of it wasn't in the best quality. So this is going to be, a very interesting upgrade for me. Yeah, it's a 4K restoration of the director's cut from an interpositive. Also, from what I understand, the director did not like the cut of the movie that ended up being released. So I think this is the first time that we're going to get his director's cut of the movie, of the way he wanted the movie to be. So that's going to be interesting. This is coming with loads of special features. It's got a commentary. It's got two commentaries. It's got a making of. It's got an introduction by the director Richard Shepard. Um, yeah, it looks very interesting. Marley Matlin is also in the film as well. Marley Matlin, who won an Oscar for Children of the Lesser God. Um, yeah, it's interesting film. I like how they on the Blu-ray.com like press release, they credit Andre Gregory with being in Demolition Man. Incredible, incredible.
Yeah, incredible.
And Buck Henry's in the movie, and they credit him with from being in Heaven Can Wait. Interesting credits here. Interesting credits. But yeah, I dug the movie, and I like what they do over at MVD with their MVD Rewind stuff. We've had Eric on here at least twice, and the man's all passion when it comes to this.
Mhm.
He's as true a collector as I've ever seen. I mean, I see his stuff on TikTok and um, Twitter and Instagram of him going to thrift stores and buying like VHS tapes and stuff.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. Cool stuff. So that's the Linguini Incident. And then the other one off here is a 101 film. And a 101 film called A Shock to the System, starring Michael Caine and Elizabeth McGovern.
Michael Caine.
Elizabeth McGovern may be mm, most known to people for being in Downton Abbey. She's in Downton Abbey. That's where I know her from.
Yeah.
But this movie's coming out May 27th, and this is imagine Michael Caine kind of doing a lighter version of American Psycho, which
Hmm.
sounds intriguing. Sounds
Hmm.
intriguing.
I don't know. I don't think I would. No, it doesn't, because I like American Psycho as crazy as it is. I don't want it to be lighter than that.
But yeah, it's kind of lighter in the sense that it's not as violent, and I don't think it's not as biting of a social commentary. I don't think it's really that much of a social commentary in and of it. But he's playing this type of role. So let me read this to you. So, loyal and hardworking executive Graham Marshall, Michael Caine, has paid his dues. He has suffered through mounting bills, the indignities of climbing the corporate ladder, and a nagging wife, with only an anxious awaited promotion to keep him going. But that all changes when his promotion is instead given to a boorish associate, portrayed by Peter Riegert, who I remember from being in The Mask with Jim Carrey. He's the main cop in The Mask. Annoyed and frustrated, Graham unleashes his rage in the form of an accidental killing, which he gets away with. No, no one sees it. No one's around to pin him, and he just gets away with it and kind of walks away. So that kind of kickstarts in his head this idea of I can get away with stuff like this. So,
Yeah.
emboldened by his newfound talent for murder, Graham begins to rethink his business strategy with deadly results. Basically, he gets the bug to kind of eliminate people who annoy him. Like if there's somebody at work who's like pissing him off, guy, he takes steps to kind of to get rid of him. It's a bit absurd in the situations that he does. Like, how does he not get caught? You know what I mean? It's like, come on. But the concept of it all, this guy who's being pushed to the limit, he's beyond his sense of reason and all that kind of stuff. But it's Michael Caine, who we perceive as being, this upstanding kind of guy, but he's just not that anymore. Yeah, so it's an interesting film. 101 is putting it out. I like the stuff they do. We don't get to talk about them much at all. So I thought this was kind of an interesting thing. It's audio commentary with director Jan Eggleston, interview with Jan Eggleston. It would have been nice to get Michael Caine to talk about this movie. I'm curious if he ever talks about it. It came out in 1990, so
Mm.
not quite the elderly gentleman Michael Caine that we know of now. He's still got some spry to him in this. He's not the Harry Brown Michael Caine who's going around blasting people away, but still interesting. Still interesting. So that's A Shock to the System, 101 films. So let's move over now to where do we want to go? We've got a couple of Australia labels to go through, and then we've got Arrow as well.
Let's do Umbrella.
Umbrella, here we go. So we're rolling through Umbrella. I don't have much to say about a lot of these. I think what did I put on our nose? Only 2 films?
Yeah, we got
Yes.
The Quiet Family
Yes, indeed.
and Darling.
Indeed. So A Quiet Family is a movie about a director that we've come to really like here on the channel, in part due because of Umbrella. It's Kim Ji-woon, who did A Tale of Two Sisters
Yep.
and I Saw the Devil.
Yep.
So you kind of get his vibe about what he's all about. But what's interesting about this movie is it's not quite that. Movie is kind of a spoof farce in a very almost Adams Family-esque way. And the way I'll say that is because there's macabre and grotesque things going on in here that seems like they would happen in that type of setting. So the movie is about this family who runs this hotel on this mountainside, and they're kind of an eclectic group of people. So this is a horror dark comedy. So what happens is like is they they don't really own the place, but they kind of run the place, but they don't get any customers. So they're trying to get like customers to come in, and what happens is the one guy they get in to come in ends up committing suicide. So instead of, calling the police, calling an ambulance, doing all these things, in order to not get any bad publicity, they decide to just bury this guy, um, and hide his body. But what ends up happening, other people keep coming in, and they also start dying in weird
God
ways.
damn it.
So this place and there's also this idea that this place may be cursed. So what happens is a series of calamitous things happen. People either start dying by accident in bed, or they end up having to start killing people due to certain circumstances and hiding bodies, and then just things just mount up and up to to higher levels of calamity. Really,
Yeah.
so the movie is a super dark comedy about hiding bodies in this for this family. It's kind of joyful from that aspect, but you need to have a very black comedy kind of sense of humor to really get it, or else you'll just be weirded out by the whole situations. It's different than what we've seen from his other work. It's like I Saw the Devil is
Yeah.
not a comedy at all.
No.
And not really, not and his other work is not really comedic in that regard. This is also an early film from him. This came out in 1998, so it's a different, obviously it's much earlier work from him, perhaps before he got into, the other work that he did, like a Tale of Two Sisters. A Bittersweet Life is another film of his that Umbrella's put out. Which do I have it? Yes, I do, Stephen.
Good job.
Yeah,
Right next to him, always.
right next to him, right here. I still have this in the same spot from when I got it. When we interviewed, who was it, Stephen? Ari Harrison
Uh,
from.
yeah, Ray Harrison. No, you're right. Yep,
Yes,
you got
that's
it.
right.
Good
So
pull.
I still have my stack of stuff that he let us get, and A Bittersweet Life was one of them. Um, so yeah, cool stuff, cool stuff. So yeah, I definitely like that, and I would recommend that if you're into it. It was, I can't remember if it was streaming anywhere, but this deluxe edition that they're coming out has like a 48-page book and a bunch of extras that they're usually putting out nowadays. I think their initial first run it's the one with all the extras,
It's a
the rigid
limited
slipcases,
edition.
the poster, the art cards, and then I think you can get the regular release once that sells out. Um, but it's actually, with all the extra goodies, it's not as expensive as I thought it would be. It's about what you pay for any deluxe set from any other label,
Yeah.
really. Um, so what else I want to talk about is the movie Darling. And Darling is a movie from 1965. It's a movie directed by John Schlesinger, who I like to refer to him as the Schlesh. I don't know
What?
if he would ever appreciate that. I don't think
It's
he's with us to really go against it.
it's just like Ernest Lubitsch. I always say, I'm gonna watch the lube. It's time to get out. Time to
Nice,
get out the lube.
nice.
Yeah. So
Yeah. I was thinking of Ernst Lubitsch the other day because ironically there was a movie of his that is going to get a Blu-ray release, and I was going to put it to our notes, but I didn't. I didn't get a chance to
well, you
watch it.
did. You did. We talked. Didn't we talk about it?
No, they're putting out.
You referenced a Lubitsch movie. That's what you did.
Yeah, there's a 1920 Lubitsch movie that's coming out that was announced last week or
Yeah.
the week before. But John Schlesinger, everybody or most people should know him. He directed Marathon Man, Midnight Cowboy. A great director. He directed. Did he direct Sunday? Not Sunday, Bloody Sunday. Yeah,
That's a
he did. It is
U2
Sunday,
song.
Bloody Sunday, but it's also a YouTube song
That's a U2 song and
and a movie.
an Irish movie.
I've always wanted to get that Criterion Blu-ray of Sunday, Bloody Sunday.
It's not Criterion.
Yeah, pretty sure it
I
is.
thought it was an Imprint.
No, it's a Criterion release. It's the movie with Peter Finch.
We're talking about the movie where it's like following people around.
Oh
in
no,
a, in a,
no.
in a,
No,
I don't
Sunday,
know.
Bloody Sunday is about like a love triangle.
Okay, so it's a whole other movie, but
Yeah, the emotional.
isn't there another movie called Sunday Bloody Sunday that's about what I'm talking about? It's the
Probably. Yeah, the one I'm
Sunday.
talking about is the emotional polyam between young artist Bob and his two lovers, a lonely male doctor and frustrated female officer.
My movie's called Bloody Sunday.
Ah,
It's not Sunday Bloody Sunday. It's
gotcha.
Bloody Sunday. Yeah,
Gotcha. You are correct, sir. But
it's
anyway,
the
John Schlesinger.
Paul Greengrass movie
Oh, yeah, you're
about
right.
the Irish Civil War. Yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
No, it's all coming back to me now. Oh, it's all coming back to me, like that
All right,
song.
John Schlesinger. Yep.
John Schlesinger. Julie Christie stars in this film called Darling, along with Dirk Bogarde. Dirk Bogarde, of course, was in what's that great film that he's in? That's The Servant. Right? He was in The Servant. Great actor. So this movie is about this woman who it's kind of the movie really doesn't have a plot. So beautiful but amoral model Diana Scott sleeps her way to the top of the London fashion scene at the height of the swinging 60s. Kind of what the movie's about. It's about this woman who's kind of just drifting through life and kind of like bouncing around from different relationships, but she's also like a model on the rise as well. And Julie Christie plays her really, really well. Um, there's a lot going on in the movie. I'm doing a terrible job of explaining it. Yeah, the swinging London early 60s, beautiful but shallow Diana Scott is a professional advertising model, a failed actress, a vocationally bored woman who toys with the affections of several men while gaining fame and fortune. That's a better way of saying it. She kind of gets bored with her life very easily, so she just bounces around from different societal men to different societal men. One of them is Dirk Bogarde, who they have a really kind of serious relationship, but she and Dirk Bogarde's also married, and she's also married, so they're having an affair, and they don't really love who they're with. There's a whole lot of things going on in this movie, and needless to say, it's one of those movies where kind of the moral of the story is, you had it good. You don't really know what you have until it's gone, and then when you try to get it back, you may not be able to. Which is that's a moral tale, I would say. I feel like that can be extrapolated into many different scenarios in life. But yeah, that's kind of this movie. And Julie Christie is great in the film. She's great on screen. Dirk Bogarde, like I said, is great. Do recommend Darling. I don't believe it's gotten a Blu-ray release anyplace else. And it's directed by John Schlesch. Yeah, it doesn't have a Blu-ray release here. I think it's got one in the UK from 2015, and it's got one in Spain. It's got one in France, maybe? No, it doesn't have one in France. But it's got this one from Umbrella. Before we move off Umbrella, I did want to mention Joint Security Area, JSA. This is the film by, I want to say, Park Chan-wook. Yeah, this is the film from Park Chan-wook. I want to mention that this is a 4K release. Arrow put this out on Blu-ray a few years ago, which many of you may have, or many of you have seen floating around. I just want to mention that this is a 4K versus that being a Blu-ray. But as we've seen with Arrow over the last several years that we've been covering them, could get an upgrade to 4K at some point. From their version, I feel like that's a possibility. That just seems to be the way they roll these days. So if you want to hold off for perhaps that, then do so. But I did want to mention that because Park Chan-wook's pretty cool director. If you know his work, the Vengeance trilogy, Old Boy,
Yeah.
Lady Vengeance, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. Those movies have been released so many times, Steven. I don't know which one's the best release for that. I've given up trying to like figure it out. It's like it was kind of like uh the Man with No Name trilogy, where those movies would get released by everybody.
Yeah.
Um, that yeah, I didn't know which one was the right one to get. That's kind of where I've gotten with the Vengeance trilogy. Even though I have them on Blu-ray, but I've got like old. I think I have old like Tartan releases on Blu-ray or something. I'd have to check. But anywho, even didn't Arrow put out like a 4K box set of them?
I got the trilogy. Yeah.
Yeah, didn't they do that? That's
I don't
probably
know
the
if it
best
was
one.
4K, but
Yeah,
it was
I'm trying to
Blu-ray.
think now. Maybe it was just Blu-ray.
Yeah.
But either way, that's Park Chan-wook stuff. So that's it from Umbrella, from at least my recollection. I guess
Okay.
we're in Australia. We might as well stay there.
Yeah. Let's go over to
Mm,
Imprint, man.
yeah. So I don't know what's going on this year, but this is the year of Harvey Keitel. Um, it is Harvey Keitel heavy. We just got the announcement of Bad Lieutenant from Kino getting a 4K release. We got the Vinegar Syndrome release of um was The Dangerous Game, the other Abel Ferrara film that also stars Harvey Keitel. And now we got a Harvey Keitel box set, a film focused box set from Imprint.
Son of a bitch.
What's going on? It's wild times, wild Harvey Keitel times. It's a bit of a thing going on, Stephen.
A
Uh,
little bit.
yeah. Speaking of Bad Lieutenant, Stephen, you want to
Yeah.
run these films down?
Yeah, man, dude, this is God, these box sets.
I know.
So it looks to be 6 films in this box set. First film is a film we call Bad Lieutenant, as you already alluded to from Kino's release, 1992 film. Second film in the set is 1993's The Young Americans. Next, we have 1993's Dangerous Game.
Everybody's putting these movies out now. Everybody's
Yep.
doing it.
94, we have Imaginary Crimes. Could be pretty good. Maybe he's got like an imaginary friend and he's like doing crimes. Is it? No, probably not. 1995's Clockers, which I believe Kino put out.
Yeah,
I
it's
have
a Spike Lee movie.
I
Yeah.
have the Spike. Yeah, I already have it. It's up in my collection.
I have a DVD of that. I've been thinking of upgrading to the Blu-ray, but I know as soon as I do, maybe a
Yeah.
4K would come out. But I don't know. It's a lesser Spike Lee film, so I don't know if that's
Yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah, it's Martin Scorsese produced on it. So
He did. It's kind of the premise for The Wire. If you watch The Wire and then you watch that movie, or vice versa, it's very similar.
yeah. And then last we have 1999's Holy Smoke.
I believe that's a Jane Campion film,
Yes.
starring Kate Winslet as
Mhm.
well. So yeah, this is an interesting box set. A lot of re-release stuff that people perhaps already have or are going to get from other areas. Like we just said, Bad Lieutenant, Dangerous Game.
But
the- the-
hey, tons of features as
yes,
usual.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one thing is you're getting new interview with Abel
Yeah.
Ferrara, new interview with actor Paul Hipp, new interview with with composer Joe Delia, new interview with editor Anthony Redman, new interview with producer Diana Phillips, and that's just on Bad Lieutenant.
Yeah.
Jeez. Then you got new interviews on every single one of these discs. I could
Yep.
go over all of them, but
Tons of new interviews. Yeah.
tons of stuff on here. I would have to do a comparison between this and what Kino's doing with Bad Lieutenant. Clockers obviously there's a new interview with actor Delroy Lindo, new interview with the screenwriter Richard Price. That's interesting. New interview with editor Sam Pollard. So I know that's obviously not on the old Kino Blu-ray that Steven mentioned. Yeah. And on Holy Smoke, there's a new audio commentary by film critic Alexandra Helen Nicholas.
Bam.
Boom. Boom shakalaka. Interesting.
Jeez,
The one
boom.
thing about Imprint
Brought out a
is
boom shakalaka. Damn.
yeah, one thing about Imprint is if you want it, you can't buy these films individually. You have to buy the whole box. I don't think they've released any of them individually so far. Not to my
Not yet.
recollection. So if you just want, like, let's say you want Clockers or you want Holy Smoke. You have to buy the whole thing, but it's like, how many copies of Bad Lieutenant are you gonna own?
No, you can buy Clockers from Kino.
Yeah,
By
yeah,
itself.
but then if you wanted the extras, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You want the
sure.
new extras
Some people don't care about.
specifically.
Some people don't care about that stuff.
That's very true. That's very
So,
true. It doesn't say anything about these being new scans or new restorations. They just
yeah,
say 1080p high definition presentation on each of them. So this could very well be the same ones that have been floating around for years.
yeah.
The only one of these films, let's see, um, I don't know if Holy Smoke ever had a Blu-ray release. Um, no, actually, it does not. No, it had one in France. That doesn't really help. It had one in France. The Young Americans, I'm not sure myself. Young Americans is an interesting movie. So The Young Americans is a movie where Harvey Keitel is, I think he's like a cop in Los Angeles or a detective in Los Angeles, and he gets sent over to London or to England to investigate. Some American has moved over there, and some American, like ex-American gangster moved over there, and he started like a street gang of young kids, and he's like, and they're like terrorizing and like committing murders and stuff, and they bring in Harvey Keitel to like help them with the investigations, and that's kind of the premise of the movie. Viggo Mortensen is in that film, and he plays like the bad guy, American gangster who went over there and like started this street gang of kids. An interesting film because Harvey Keitel becomes friends with like a kid who then infiltrates the gang and stuff. It's a dark film, but
Cool.
interesting. Like
I
that's
like
the
it.
Young Americans. Bad Lieutenant, he plays a dirty cop. Clockers is a movie where I think he also plays a cop as well. I think,
Seems to be a theme here.
yeah. Holy Smoke's a movie I've never seen, but I remember Harvey Keitel and Kate Winslet's character have a relationship in that movie, and she's like super young. It's kind of not
Yeah.
comfortable, if I remember correctly. This is also Kate Winslet, I think, 2 years after she was in Titanic? Yeah,
She.
1999.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is obviously coming in their usual boxes like so, with the, the top loading and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. It's probably gonna have Harvey Keitel's face all over it. Coming with a book and things like that. But that's not the end of Harvey Keitel stuff.
No.
They're coming out with a double feature release
Yeah.
of 2 Harvey Keitel films called Smoke and then its sequel, Blue in the Face from 1995. I had never heard of either of these films until this announcement. Smoke is excellent. Excellent film. Fantastic. Like, really great. Like, I would implore everyone to go out and watch this movie ASAP. It's really, really good. Reminded me a lot of a Jim Jarmusch film.
Mm.
And in the second movie, Jim Jarmusch is in the movie. and so I'm like, hey, this is directed by someone we know of. Full frontal Harvey Keitel
Yeah.
in Bad Lieutenant.
Good
So
stuff. Good stuff.
yeah, it's going to happen in 4K if you get the Kino release.
Yeah, man.
That's how they should sell that, to be honest. Harvey Keitel was not shy about doing stuff like that. I believe he did it in The Piano as well. Talk about Jane Campion. So yeah, that's interesting. Abel Ferrer, what a guy who just pushed the envelope, in every regard. But anywho, back to what I was saying about Smoke. Smoke is a great film. So this is a movie that you can watch it on Pluto TV, but Pluto TV may have the absolute worst interface I've ever seen for for a streaming app in general. It's awful to navigate. They have probably like a dozen commercial ad breaks in their films. The most I've ever seen. Like Tubi is 10 times better than that. It's got its breaks, but they break in like the middle of sentences. When people are talking, it's rough. But it was the only way to see this movie until you get this Blu-ray release. So, going back to what I was saying earlier, this movie as well as its sequel are both Miramax films from the 90s. Obviously, kind of a deeper catalog stuff from Miramax from the 90s. So this is a very loose, the IMDb synopsis kind of sucks. So don't go that route. Let me go to good old Letterboxd, see if they give me something a little more digestible. So so writer Paul Benjamin so this movie takes place entirely in New York City, in Brooklyn, and it's really centered around this like convenience store smoke shop place that Harvey Keitel runs. Harvey Keitel his name is Augie, or Augustus, and he runs a smoke shop. So, writer Paul Benjamin, who's portrayed by William Hurt, by the way, is nearly hit by a bus when he leaves Augie Wren's smoke shop. Stranger Rashid Cole saves his life, and soon middle-aged Paul tells the homeless Rashid that he wouldn't mind a short-term housemaid. Still grieving over his wife's murder, Paul is moved by both Rashid's quest to reconnect with his father and Augie's discovery that a woman who might be his daughter is about to give birth. This is loosely structured here. So, the person that saves this Paul Benjamin character is portrayed by Harold Perrineau. Harold Perrineau, of course, was in the movie Lost. He was he's played Mercutio in the Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet. A really great actor, and he's really good in this film. And he's living on the streets due to some circumstances that they reveal. But really what's going on is he's trying to connect with his father, who he hasn't seen pretty much from his whole life. His father's portrayed by Forrest Whitaker. The cast in this movie is insane. So it kind of tracks him down. He's trying to reconnect with him. He becomes friends with William Hurt's character and Paul Benjamin, who's this guy who is a writer, but he has writer's block. His wife tragically passed away, so he's dealing with that. It's really a movie about this cross-section of characters in New York City and how they interact with one another. Harvey Keitel's character is dealing with his own stuff, and the movie's kind of told in these segments, in these parts. Really brilliantly beautiful, fantastic movie. Good character film, highly recommended. Unfortunately, the sequel itself, not so much. Not so much. And it's not even a sequel, really. So they made the second movie in this set, or in this release, called what's the movie called? It's called Blue in the Face. They shot it in 5 days, and the movie's just a series of vignettes of of a bunch of these characters in that Brooklyn area, kind of congregating around this smoke shop, and they're all and the movie's more about Brooklyn and the culture and all of that, and it is about having an actual plot. It's told in like these 10-minute segments, and it's kind of all over the place. Like you just see like random characters talking about stuff. The movie was mostly improv. Like I said, it was shot in like 5 days, but the cast in this movie is unreal. The cast in that movie is, and they just show up for like one scene. Like I mentioned Jim Jarmusch, but also Lou Reed, the musician, pops up. Michael J. Fox pops up in one scene. Roseanne Barr, Lily Tomlin, Jared Harris, Giancarlo Esposito. Madonna shows up and sings like a message, like one of those like song message gram things. Random as hell. Random as hell. But what I'm gonna put a bow on this whole thing, or else I can go on about Smoke for days, because I love the movie so much. It's directed by Wayne, I think Wayne Wang. It's either Wayne Wang or Wayne Wong.
Wayne Wang.
Yes. And he directed the movie Chan is Missing, which got a Criterion release. A great film, in my opinion. And that movie is all about like is like Chinese immigrants living in New York. Very street level stuff in that film. But he also directed that other film that also got a Criterion release as well, Stephen, Dim Sum, A Little Bit of Heart. So you've got this really great director directing these character films that he's known for, exploring these different characters and people and how they interact. Smoke is amazing. Like I'm shocked by how great this movie was. And I think I needed this movie at the time that I watched it because a lot of the movies I watched for this week's episode were all relatively middling films. And I
Yeah.
sometimes, if you watch so much kind of like mediocre films, um, you kind of you you need something to hit to bring
Yeah.
you up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And this movie was it. But he is right. Yeah, Barry the Tick is right. Stockard Channing plays Harvey Keitel's ex-wife, who comes
Yeah.
to him and tells him about the daughter, and the daughter is portrayed by Ashley Judd, I think. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's like everybody
Jesus
you can
Christ.
imagine.
They're
It's
just coming out of the woodworks
yeah.
in this
So
movie.
Stockard Channing is most known for playing Rizzo in Grease. For
Yeah.
those of you interested, yeah, she shows up and they have like a whole backstory as well. But really, the best stuff in the movie is Harold Perrineau trying to connect with his father and stuff. Um, yeah, Forrest Whitaker's great in the movie, in his role there. Um, good stuff, really good stuff. Like I would watch Smoke on its own, and the movie doesn't overstay its welcome. It's well structured and all that kind of stuff. But Blue in the Face. What's it? Did I say Blue in the Face? Whatever it
Yeah. Blue in the face.
is like the complete opposite, where it's not structured and it's so random and there's not a plot and it's just a bunch of like characters talking, like they popping in and out, like it's all like improv stuff. But it's cool to like stay in that world, I guess, for a little longer. But when there's no real plot in it, you don't really have anything to attach yourself to, to carry
Yeah.
you along. What is interesting is when I started watching Smoke, the beginning of Smoke is everybody hanging out in that smoke shop. Like Giancarlo Esposito's there, and they're just like talking about random stuff. It feels very Clerks-esque, if you will. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, is the whole movie going to be this, or is there going to be an actual plot? No, there was an actual plot that carried the rest of the movie. Ironically, the second film ended up being just people hanging out talking,
Yeah.
and it didn't work. So yeah, great set from Imprint. Awesome. Let's see. Is there anything else from Imprint that interest? I know 8mm, the Joel Schumacher film, getting a re-release, Blu-ray re-release.
It doesn't.
Um,
It doesn't have any new features, so I mean,
I
I'll
think
probably
the
I'll stick
only
with my
yeah,
Blu-ray I already have. Yeah.
the only thing relatively new with it is there is an interview with. Hold on. Yeah, there's an interview with Joel Schumacher from 2019, which I don't think is on the original Blu-ray. And the only reason why I think that that's new is because he passed away in 2020.
Yeah.
So it must have been much, right before he passed away. That's the only thing that's relatively interesting about it. I don't think it's got a new upgrade for video or audio or anything like
Yeah.
that. So you're kind of okay in that regard. But yeah, let's move on to Arrow then.
All
Yeah,
right.
let's move on to Arrow. Arrow had a,
We're finishing up with Arrow here. Is this it?
I believe so. I gotta check our notes.
Well, Fun City had the
Oh,
Heavenly
let me talk
Bodies.
about Fun City right away. Fun City's had some interesting things cooking lately. So
Yeah.
they're already talking about like July stuff, or in this case, stuff that doesn't even have a date yet.
Yeah.
So Fun City's actually got like 2 movies in the pipeline, actually 3. Um, it's got this movie Heavenly Bodies. Let's talk about this first. So Heavenly Bodies is an interesting, weird type of film. Um, it's a movie predominantly centered around would you call it aerobics or
Okay. Yeah.
jazzercise or something like that? I don't know. All the rage in the 80s was like spandex and exercising to music, all that kind of stuff. Like what's his name,
Richard
Stephen?
Simmons,
Richard Simmons type of stuff.
Suzanne Summers.
Suzanne Summers with all that thigh mastering and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But this is like the dancing, Stephen. The
Yeah.
up and downs, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I remember,
Stuff we don't do.
yeah, stuff we really don't do.
Yeah.
So Heavenly Bodies, a movie came out in 1984. I love the tagline here. She's reaching for the top with everything she's got. Nice.
Mm.
A small dancer-sized studio fights for its existence against the unscrupulous owner of a rival club. The conflict boils down to a dance marathon to settle the score, as everything does in life.
Should
As
always
everything
should.
does. So, yeah, there's this woman who runs this small but successful dancer size gym studio, whatever. And what happens is she ends up I don't know if she ends up kind of being pushed or squeezed by like the bigger competition. Also, she tries to like leave the place and move on to bigger and better things on being on television and stuff, and she ends up getting like pushed around by that environment. Meets a skeezy guy who tries to like, you know, manipulate her and all that kind of stuff. But anywho, it all ends up having to boiling down to her having to like keep her old studio out of the clutches of the big corporate machine by doing this dancer size competition where where each studio has a team, and the way you lose is if somebody can't dance anymore, they collapse, pass out, whatever, they're eliminated, and
Hell
basically last
yeah.
one standing wins. There's a lot more to it. Like there's a relationship she has with a guy. There was and all this kind of drama and stuff going on. I think she's also like a single mother that plays into these things as well. She's got friends and all the kind of stuff. You don't understand what I'm saying. I'm not really
Hey,
painting a big picture,
sounds good.
but it's fun though. It's a fun movie.
Hey,
The soundtrack's awesome.
Fun City Edition.
Yeah, I know. It's a fun city movie. And the soundtrack is awesome. Like the exercise sequences are all great and whatnot. It's very much a time capsule piece of a film.
Yeah.
But they also have another movie in the works, which unfortunately is not as fun, and it's called Stranger's Kiss, which is coming out in June. And I wanted to talk about this because I don't think we talked about it. Um, to help his actress girlfriend regain her confidence, a Hollywood big shot bankrolls a small budget film being made by a first time producer and director pair. And despite the hand to mouth way it has to be made, the film starts to come out good, as does the offset relationship between the actress and her unknown male lead. Yes, sounds good on paper. Execution not so well, and the problem is the acting in the movie is not very good.
Okay.
The chemistry between these two people is not very good, to the point where I'm like, I don't buy this romance. I don't buy this. It's supposed to be like, passionate and heatful. These two people, they're playing in the movie that they're making, they're playing like this couple that's in like a struggling relationship, but they love each other, and there's passion, but there's anger. And then like that relationship is also like supposed to be represented off of the movie that they're making, to where they start to like have a connection with one another, start a romance behind the scenes, stuff like that, like you've heard on other movie sets over the years, even up till now. The problem is like the two actors that are doing it are not great, so therefore you don't believe the chemistry, you don't believe the romance. So if you don't believe that crux of it, at least for me, I didn't quite get it. Also, didn't realize this till the movie was over. The movie that they're making in the movie, and the whole movie itself, is a fictitious representation of Stanley Kubrick's Killer's Kiss. Didn't put those pieces together until after the movie was done, because the director in the movie, his name is just called Stanley the Director, and I didn't put it together that it's Stanley, it's supposed to be Stanley Kubrick, because I'm watching the movie, I'm like, this director's an asshole. He is mean and angry to his actors, and I'm like, and then afterward, it's like, oh, it's Stanley Kubrick. Okay, got it, got it. And then like I wasn't putting it together that the plot of the movie that they were making within the movie was Killer's Kiss. It's the boxing movie. Stanley Kubrick did a boxing movie. Killer's Kiss is actually regarded as perhaps Stanley Kubrick's worst film. I don't know if you count Fear and Desire as one of his films, but I don't see a lot of people championing Killer's Kiss. So the fact that they went to like make like a fake making of Killer's Kiss to tell this story is interesting. What's interesting, and it's also, the movie has good elements to it. Like I'm saying, like you've got the romance, you've got the forbidden romance, you've got the super jealous like Hollywood mogul guy who he acts more like a mobster and a gangster guy, and just somebody who's fronting money and possessive over this woman. You've got those elements, but it just doesn't quite come together the way I think the film intended it to be. Still watchable, in my opinion, still interesting in that regard, but not one of the better films, I think, from Fun City, considering all the good Fun City movies, the hidden gems we've gotten so far, Steven.
Yeah.
So it's not one that I would run out to buy right away. Like I would buy Heavenly Bodies whenever that comes out, which they
Yeah.
haven't announced yet when it's coming out, before I would buy Stranger's Kiss. I did want to mention um, that hold on. I think our buddy Scott Saslow worked on. I think.
I'm falling asleep. Yeah, I know. I'm super tired. I've been up since 4:30.
Oh no, I hear you. I just want to say I think he worked on an alternate cover for
Now,
this release.
Dan told me to wake up.
Oh, Dan, stop yelling at him.
Yeah, I know.
Jesus.
I'm drifting here at some points because I'm barely
You're gonna make it.
hanging
So
on.
because we're gonna go into Arrow right now, and I only got like 2 things to talk about. So yeah, so I did want to mention. I think our buddy Scott Saslow worked on an alternate like cover art design, like layout for Stranger's Kiss, and I think he worked on like some of the other stuff that Fun City's got cooking right now too. So moving back to Arrow, let's move on to the Arrow July releases, and we've got some interesting stuff here, Steven.
Yeah, we
What
got re-release.
we
and
really have like
stuff.
one really super interesting one, and
Yeah,
then the rest
kind of.
maybe feel excited
Depending
about.
on yeah. Well, the Last Starfighter is a re-release. Of
Well,
course,
it's actually it's an interesting re-release because it's a British 4K re-release. Here
yeah,
we already got the 4K
yeah,
in the US territory. There they didn't. So
yeah.
now they're getting the 4K that we've already gotten. But they could have just imported the one we've got because region free.
Region free.
Anyhow.
But yeah. Fun 80s, sci-fi kids movie.
Yeah,
Essentially.
the kid becomes obsessed with an arcade game,
Yeah.
and he ends up having to go to space to play the real game in
Yeah.
space. That's kind of the Last Starfighter. It's a fun '80s camp film if you
It's fine.
if you have a nostalgia for it,
Yeah.
really. But the other one I want to talk about before we get to the big one is Redline 7000, is a Howard Hawks film from 1965. It's the movie he did towards the end of his career. He only did 2 other movies after this. He did El Dorado in '66, and then I think he did Rio Lobo in 1970, and that was it for Howard Hawks' career. He passed away in 1977. So this is not a great film from Howard Hawks, kind of probably one of his lower films. It's about race car driving, like NASCAR type of stuff.
It makes me think about the Cronenberg did that car movie.
Oh my goodness! Yes,
early on,
exactly. That's exactly what
it
I'm
makes
thinking.
me think about. I'm blanking on the name of it, but he did a car movie early on in his career.
Yes, he did. I remember having to watch
Fast something.
I'm gonna look it up right now because, and this movie is similar in that regard. You're dealing with kind of the drama of race car driving of the time.
Fast Company.
Yeah, Fast Company. That's what it is. But this movie is dealing more or less with the politics of the industry and more with the people within it. Specifically the dangers that they face in terms of race car driving. Crashing, getting hurt, dying, things like that.
Yeah.
But and also the people that are affected, that are attached to them, their significant other, their girlfriends, family, friends, things like that. So in a way, it's endearing in that regard. And in the movie, you've got a couple of actors that I think you'll recognize. You have James Caan, a very young James Caan is in this film. And that's kind of the main people we'll remember. George Takei is also in the film as well as another kind of, he's not quite a race car driver. I think he's like one of the mechanics. But yeah, the lives and passions of stock car team are revealed against the turbulent backdrop of professional racing world. What's cool about the movie is I think they use like actual race footage in certain sequences because they mention like real life race car drivers at the time in the commentary, like, oh, Mario Andretti is taking the lead or something like that. You know what I mean? And then they'll go to like a close up of one of these fictitious characters. But the movie is more about the relationship that 3 of the race car drivers have. And the significant others that they meet and try to have relationships with. The problem I have with the film is that all of that is kind of undercooked because you have these 3 storylines going on at the same time, and only 2 of them really intertwine with one another. You're bouncing back and forth between these different storylines that are happening, and some are more interesting than others, and some are like severely underwritten and undercooked to the point where like I know what they're going for and I kind of get it, but there's so much missing here that I can't really, get going with it. Like there's a relationship here where we see someone like madly fall in love with each other, and then the next scene they're like completely distant from one another, and there's just like huge gap of plot there. And I'm like, how did we get from point A to point Z? And then you won't see them again for like towards the end of the movie where they come back together due to certain circumstances or whatever. So there's gaps like that in these plot lines that kind of hinder the movie. Also, it's interesting to see Howard Hawks going from like making like westerns back in the 40s, like to making race car movies in the 60s. Also, to see Howard Hawks making a movie with like diving into like 60s like culture is swinging 60s culture is odd. Like they'll be like out at social events, and I'm like, this doesn't feel like a Howard Hawks film. But then maybe that's just my bias. That's just my bias. But yeah, but that's Redline 7000. If you're a Howard Hawks completist, obviously I think you're probably gonna get it. This did have a Blu-ray release, I think from Twilight Time at one point. Or maybe Olive. Yeah, it was no, Kino. Kino's put it out. Okay, I was completely way off. No, Kino's is out of print. So Kino does not have it in print anymore. So that's why I think Arrow. Yeah, that's why Arrow has the rights now. They have the US rights too. Didn't know that. But speaking of rights, we've got a little rights thing going on here with The Man from U.N.C.L.E., the Guy Ritchie film. Now, what's cool about this release is I really like the movie. I think it's one of Guy Ritchie's best films that he's done over the last let's call it a decade now. Why not? And this is getting a deluxe 4K UHD edition, like we've seen from them do in the past. But what I heard directly from Michael McKenzie, who's a producer over at Arrow, this officially kicks off a licensing deal that Arrow has with Warner Brothers. Which I never thought I'd live to see the day where Warner Brothers would make a deal like that with a boutique label. And he said that there are interesting releases to come after this.
Wow.
So I'm kind of shocked. I know Warner Brothers is hard up for money these days, and they're kind of giving away things to try to make as much money as they possibly can. But I never thought I'd live to see this. But I'm glad we're getting it because we're getting this movie with a deluxe presentation as well as a bunch of special features. It's coming out in July. Yeah, this is definitely on my radar. What did you think of The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Steven?
It's all right. You know, to be honest with you, man, I'm not a super Guy Ritchie fan.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like lukewarm on him. He's obviously got a area that he likes to delve in. He likes crime films. He typically likes crime films with British people.
That's his bread and butter. That's what he does best.
But then he did Aladdin.
He tries to go out.
Then he did Aladdin.
Yeah. You know, I'm one of the biggest fans of his King Arthur movie with Charlie Hunnam.
You are. You defend the King Arthur movie.
Yeah. And the King Arthur movie with Charlie Hunnam. I dig that. Aladdin is interesting. What an interesting experiment of a movie for Guy Ritchie to do. But he's gone back to doing his actually.
Yeah, you know, like the Gentleman, you know.
Yeah, he went back and did The Gentleman, but he's doing other things now. Like he did, oh man, he did. What was it? Guy LaRue, not Guy LaRue. What am I thinking? Rudiger. Let's see. Yeah, he did. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, and then Operation Fortune Rudiger. That's what it was. They did Wrath of Man with Jason Statham. Yeah.
He does.
He's got a movie. He's got a movie in the theaters right now.
Yeah, I mean he's a prolific director. He has his own style. I'm just lukewarm. It's. I mean, like for a while, I preferred kind of his kind of I guess you could say his protege, Matthew Vaughn, because I believe Matthew Vaughn
Yeah,
worked with Guy
on
Ritchie
Snatch,
early
I think.
in
Yeah, early
Snatch,
and Lock, Stock, I think.
Lock, Stock, in Layer Cake. I think was Matthew Vaughn's first movie, which
Mm.
was, I believe,
It's a Guy Ritchie-esque film, yeah.
yeah. I mean, like I
To be
think they
honest,
did,
his style is very much Guy
yeah.
Ritchie-esque.
And I used to prefer Matthew Vaughn. Now Matthew Vaughn's just I don't know what the fuck he's doing with his career.
He
He's
he's making comic book movies, but they're
I
not
yeah.
great, though.
They're
I don't it's
very.
weird.
He's got the same stick, and it's the same thing as Guy Ritchie. They have a stick, and they kind of stick to it. They don't. And so I'm just. I guess you could say I don't dislike them, but they're boring to me. I'm bored with both directors.
I love how Dan says, "He who must not be named is opposite Henry Cavill and Alicia Vikander." Yeah, I don't give a shit. It's Army Hammer.
Army Hammer. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Army Hammer, who, yeah, he is, his career is
He's got
dead.
some personal issues going on.
Yeah, but when this movie came out, people really liked The Man from U.N.C.L.E. So much to the point where people clamored for years for a sequel. It underperformed at the box office, which is why I never got one. Then Armie Hammer obviously had his issues and whatnot. Then his career's dead. But so they're probably never gonna happen again. But this release is something I would like because I believe the movie came out in like 2014, and so that was well before 4K was even format. No, 2015. So that was right before 4K was even a format. So this has never gotten a 4K release at all.
Yeah.
The Blu-ray looks fantastic. I've had the Blu-ray for years. So if you're a big fan of The Man from U.N.C.L.E., if you like Guy Ritchie's work, um, this is probably going to be a nice worthy upgrade. If you don't own the movie at all, obviously this is a great way to own it. I'm not gonna lie there. But yeah, so I'm excited for that. But it was a relatively quiet month for Arrow. They are releasing a box set here. It's called the Nico Mastorakis collection. It's a series of B movies from the 80s into the 90s, I believe, from the director Nico Mastorakis. That's how you pronounce it. That sounds so much better than what I just said. Yeah, he's sardonic skewing of American cinema with a chutzpah that could be seen to be believed. That's what it says here. Yeah, so that's kind of a throwback to what Arrow used to do before the now times, I guess. They would put out kind of these weird, B movie type of deals, which I guess a lot of their fans prefer them to do now, and not so much the mainstream stuff like The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah.
I think you got to balance it, really. If you can balance it,
nowadays,
do it.
these companies got to find a way to pay the bills.
Yeah, if you're making deals with Warner Brothers, you might as well put out some of their good stuff.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Put out a deluxe edition of,
Yeah, I'm curious what they've
whatever.
got going because I couldn't see because I couldn't see Warner Archive putting this out.
Well, I was gonna say I'm gonna assume most of what they're releasing is gonna be newer films.
Yes,
I believe.
Although he did say some older, deeper cut stuff.
I'm sure there is.
But nothing. I don't see anything. Oh, I would say I can't see anything that something like a Warner Archive could put out. Like I don't know if they're gonna put out a 1940s noir film from Arrow.
No, it's gonna be probably stuff 70s.
Wouldn't mind.
Sure, but
they put out The Desperate Hour with Humphrey Bogart, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But I know what you're saying, Stephen. More modernish stuff that probably hasn't gotten a 4K release yet. I would, because I think there's plenty of that.
Yeah,
plenty of that to go around.
For sure. And before I forget, when you've been talking a lot about Miramax tonight, there's a Miramax movie I'm hoping gets a release. It's called The Lookout with Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
I remember when that came out,
where he's like this guy who in an accident when he was younger, and now he's like a janitor for like a bank, and then there's like a bank heist that he like gets involved in because they make him the lookout. It's pretty good, pretty solid. Early Joseph. I have a like a triple feature DVD or Blu-ray that has the movie on it.
I was gonna say, let's see. Yeah, that's another one of those releases. Disney Buena Vista put it out back in 2007 when the movie came out, but of course at the time Disney owned Miramax.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a time when Disney owned Miramax, but yeah, there was is that a triple pack or is that
Yeah.
a
Yeah. It's at least
two
a
pack?
triple back. Yeah.
They have a double pack of the Yards and the Lookout. Interesting double feature there.
Yeah.
I
But
remember that.
yeah. It's one I would like to see come from somebody that could do it. Whether it's Paramount or Imprint or whoever has the rights. Let's do it. But I think that that caps the Chasing Labels spy number 138. Thanks everybody for hanging with us. Dan's typing 1,000 miles a minute here. Of course, her honey left us. She called you Aaron by mistake.
When?
This was a little bit ago, but she left us about 20 minutes ago almost. But she said, you have a gift for Gab in film knowledge.
Yeah, I don't know who's gonna rein me in.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
I'm excited to see what the show's gonna be without
It's gonna be
me.
me talking for 2 hours, I guess.
Yeah, but I appreciate you saying good luck to. Yeah, I'll be around and it'll be fun. The new stuff's gonna be fun. I'm excited for it. So, but let's take this out, man. Where can they find you? Other than right here,
you can find me obviously here on the YouTube Chasing Labels, as well as X at Capzilla06, or Twitter, as I still like to refer to it, because I don't think that name will ever die at this point. But yeah, you can find me in those two places.
And you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings, or at the other Chasing Labels pages, whether it's our X page, our Instagram. You can follow me on Letterboxd, see what I'm watching if I have time to watch anything. But of course, you can find the audio for the podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. Well, not Stitcher anymore, Spotify, and probably some other places. And of course, right here on YouTube. Thanks again for listening. And hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.